Welcome back, everyone. Today we are jumping right into a brand new explainer. We're going to take a really fascinating look at how a global sports icon, specifically the legendary Lionel Messi, can be perfectly captured using absolute bare-bones minimalism. We are literally going to deconstruct this unique piece of sports art to see exactly how a few simple, minimal lines can create this explosive, almost animation-like sense of motion and capture the sheer, relentless effort of the player.
Okay, let's dive right into this. What we have right here is a highly stylized, deceptively simple drawing of Messi just charging down the pitch. It's a fantastic piece of art that really messes with our expectations. You know, at first glance, it almost feels like a casual doodle you do in a notebook. But as we're about to see, every single pen stroke here is a totally calculated artistic decision. It's designed to scream Messi without ever needing to draw a realistic portrait.
So let's break this down. Section 1, the iconic caricature.
To immediately lock in who we're looking at, the artist relies on some highly detailed visual anchors right up front. Notice the meticulously styled hair and that signature brown beard? We've got those intense, sharply angled eyebrows giving him that hyper-focused game face. And then, of course, there's the unmistakable light blue and white stripes of the Argentina national team kit, complete with the gold crest, the iconic number 10, and the Messi lettering slapped right across the chest. The artist really goes all in on these specific, recognizable traits on the head and torso, so there is absolutely zero doubt about who's got the ball.
But honestly, here is where the artistic choices get really fun. There's this massive, entirely deliberate contrast between the highly detailed head and torso and the rudimentary stick figure limbs. It's like the artist gives us just enough realism up top to anchor the identity and then completely strips away all the complex anatomy for the arms and legs, just resorting to simple, thick black lines. What's really wild here is the sheer abruptness of this transition. Look right at the waistline of the shorts. See where the detailed, shaded fabric just suddenly ends and the legs begin? Boom! It's a sudden, almost comical shift from realism straight into stick figure territory. It kind of challenges our brain, right? Yet somehow, it doesn't break the illusion of the athlete at work. The socks and those vibrant blue and orange boots are detailed again, but the leg itself, just a black line. It's a brilliant study in how little visual information we actually need to process a human figure putting in the effort.
Which brings us to Section 2, Anatomy of Stick Figure Motion.
So, with an incredibly simplified body, how do you create a dynamic, believable sense of speed without a full-blown animation? Well, the answer lies in a foundational artistic concept called implied motion. Even though nothing here is physically moving, the artist uses a precise cocktail of visual cues to totally trick our brains into feeling the momentum, the crazy work rate, and the kinetic energy of the player. Let's look at the specific elements conveying this speed. First, check out the aggressively forward-leaning posture. He's practically defying gravity to show off that relentless drive. Second, we have these classic animation-style action lines curving right behind the waist and trailing off the back of the boots. Third, look at the ground. You've got these floating directional grass streaks zooming past underneath him in varying shades of green. And finally, the incredibly tight placement of the soccer ball directly under the striking foot. Brought together, these subtle cues make those stick legs feel like an animated blur, moving at 100 miles an hour. Right down in that lower left quadrant is where the magic happens. Look closely at the tension around those cleats and the classic black and white paneled ball. You can literally see those tiny motion lines swooshing behind the heel. You can practically hear the grass tearing up as he accelerates. The minimal lines don't hold the action back. They actually streamline it, forcing our eyes straight to the point of impact and highlighting the sheer effort being expelled.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Section 3, Background and Comedic Contrast. We've been so incredibly focused on the intense action and that animated energy up front, but I want you to take a second and think, who is actually guarding the goal? Let's scan the far right background of the environment. What exactly is waiting for him at the end of the pitch?
Check this guy out. Way off in the distance, framed perfectly in the white netting, we have a simplistic, waving stick figure goalie in a yellow shirt. And the contrast here is just absolutely hilarious. You have one of the most prolific goal scorers in the history of the sport bearing down on the net with these intense, furrowed brows. And the goalkeeper, he is completely unbothered, just standing there with a tiny smile, giving a friendly, helpless little wave.
This visual mismatch creates a brilliant little micro-narrative within the frame. On one hand, you have the striker's intense, aggressive, rapid-fire focus and effort. And on the other, the goalkeeper's friendly, almost completely passive wave. It perfectly captures a freeze-frame moment of an impending, absolutely inevitable goal. The goalie's body language practically screams, "Well, there's nothing I can do about this." It adds a layer of wonderful humor without taking anything away from the dynamic, animated action of the main subject.
So the crucial takeaway here is beautifully summed up by this thought. Minimalism doesn't strip away the story, it amplifies the most important details. By removing the complex anatomy, by boiling the background down to simple lines and a funny little stick figure, the artist successfully merges caricature, implied animation-like motion, and clever background humor to tell a complete, highly engaging story with barely any lines at all. The pure essence and the sheer work rate of the player actually shines brighter because there's no visual clutter to distract us. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. How does minimalist art change your perception of global sports icons? Think about it. When you strip away the photorealism, the sweat, the stadium lights, and just leave the core essence, the beard, the number 10, the forward lean, the relentless momentum, does it make the icon feel more human or more like a myth? I challenge you to look a little closer at the artistic choices in the images and animations you consume every single day. There's always a deeper structure waiting to be seen. Thanks so much for joining me on this visual deep dive, and keep